And joining us now, Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen of Maryland. He recently returned from a trip to El Salvador, where he met with Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He's also a member of the Foreign Relations Committee. And Senator, Pope Francis's last words, final public remarks, focused on this theme. How much contempt is stirred up at times toward the vulnerable, the marginalized, and migrants, Francis wrote in a papal address delivered on Easter Sunday yesterday by a Vatican aide to the crowds gathered in St. Peter's Square. And here we are, you on, I guess, just back now from El Salvador, dealing with the issue of just one of the many people who have been forcibly removed, disappeared. I mean, some might even see it as a kidnapping. It's definitely not a deportation. Where does the plight of Kilmar Abrego Garcia stand now?
Well, you're very right. I read Pope Francis's remarks. He was a beautiful soul, a pope for all of humanity, and he focused on the most vulnerable and on natural rights, on the right of everybody to be free under the law. And the whole point here that we're making is that the Trump administration needs to respect the Constitution of the United States. When you threaten the rights of one man like Abrego Garcia, take away the rights of one man like Abrego Garcia, you threaten the rights for everybody. In this case, the Trump administration is flouting the law, because the Supreme Court on a 9-0 ruling said that they had to facilitate the return of Abrego Garcia. I was just down there, as you said. I met with him. The embassy, the Trump administration, is doing nothing right now to comply with that court order. What they're doing is trying to change the subject, as if you can't comply with the Constitution and fight gang violence. I've been fighting MS-13 longer than Donald Trump probably ever uttered the words. I put together an anti-gang task force in this Washington region, Maryland, Washington, Virginia. So the notion that fighting gangs requires that you shred the Constitution and deny people's rights is just the dangerous spin that Donald Trump is putting on all this.
Senator, good morning. Two-part question for you. First, just tell us a little bit about your visit. I know there was the El Salvador government. You allege that they sort of tried to stagecraft some of this, to putting drinks on the table and the like, to try to suggest that the inmate there was being well taken care of. Tell us about how he is doing, but also could you respond to some Democrats who say actually too much attention is being paid to this one case, but why you think it matters and why you made this trip?
Well, I think it matters because it's never wrong to protect the, fight for the Constitution of the United States. And that's what we're doing here. We're fighting for the rule of law. And if you take it away, as I said, for one person, you threaten it for all. So I met with Abrego Garcia. He's been in a total news blackout. He hasn't been able to communicate with anybody, not his wife, not his lawyer. That is a violation of international law. I told him that, people here were fighting for his constitutional rights. I passed along the love from his wife and his family. He obviously has been traumatized. He said so, and he said, I don't understand why I was abducted off the streets of Maryland and end up in prison in El Salvador, which is why we need to fight for his rights.
All right, we have Julia Ainsley, who's been covering all angles of this story for us. Julia has a question for the senator. Julia?
Senator, you are in a unique position in that you've actually spoken to someone who's been on the inside, one of the recent deportees. What did Mr. Abrego Garcia tell you about the conditions inside? What is it like to sleep? How often are they let out of their cell? And have these men been given any kind of information about how long they will be incarcerated there?
So starting with your last question, one of the things about CICOT, which is this notorious prison in El Salvador, is that the prisoners there have no communication with the outside world. None. Not with their lawyers, not with their families, which in itself is a violation of international law. He told me that he when he was first moved to CCOT, he was in a cell with about 25 other prisoners, that he wasn't scared about the other prisoners in his cell, but he was traumatized by the prisoners in other cells who taunted him. And these other cells were just packed with prisoners. He has been moved subsequently to a place with better conditions, but again, is in a total news blackout and unable to communicate with anybody. I was the first person he's communicated with, and to my knowledge, the last from the outside world. I'm working now to try to make sure that his wife can talk to him. That was his one request, other than seeking his freedom, was to be able to talk to his wife.
Senator, I don't know if I could ask you one more question. I know you're on a tight timeline, but I want to ask you about why you are so focused on the case of this man, why you traveled to El Salvador, and back to the issue of what has happened to all of these people who have been sent to this prison, because the normal process of deportation, the DHS issues a notice to appear. There's a formal hearing in immigration court. The process involves that hearing where the government must prove the person is deportable. Since that did not happen in this case and in many others, what happened to these people? How would you describe it? What's the term you would use?
I would say they were illegally abducted by U.S. government agents and then taken to foreign prisons against the law. And the reason why it's important to treat each of these cases individually under the law is because our Constitution requires due process before people can be deprived of their liberty. In the case of Abrego Garcia, for example, the federal district court judge said that the Trump administration had provided absolutely no evidence linking him to MS-13, which is why I've said they need to put up or shut up in court and not just sort of wage this campaign on social media. The whole reason we have a Constitution and due process is to protect the rights of the individual. And I think more and more, certainly libertarians and other conservatives who are actually looking at the facts of this case are very worried about the idea that the government of the United States can deprive someone of their liberty, abduct them, send them to El Salvador without knowing where they're going, lock them in a prison, to do all that without any due process. That is a scary proposition. And if you don't fight for the constitutional rights of one person, as I say, others can be next.
Abductions by the U.S. government in America. Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen of Maryland, thank you very much for coming on the show this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.